Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We're here after the first weekend of the Six Nations, where dominant wins for France and England set them at the head of the pace, and a big win in Rome for Italy has put Scotland under more pressure and danger. So I'm Thala. I'm joined by Shaun. We're going to look through the weekend's games, look at some of the news and some of the other things happening across the rugby world. But yeah, Shaun, I think this weekend is nice because there wasn't any other competitions that really impact on this. Yes, obviously there were sevens and other like Premiership Cup and all that sort of stuff, but we could mostly focus on the Six Nations. That was a really good weekend of the Six Nations.
Yeah, hi. It's good to be back. But what a cracking opening round! Like it is, it has created a beautiful narrative for the rest of the tournament for a number of
Mm.
reasons. Like you can really see France and England going all the way, and the final game of the entire tournament being a Grand Slam decider, and obviously then the winner. And you can see that happening. And then there's obviously the conversation around Scotland and Gregor. Um, Italy, like, is this the year that they upset people? Wales, we kind of like, there's still a story there. Like, surely everyone was expecting more. And then obviously Ireland blaming everyone but the people they should blame. So it's amazing. The Thursday night start was quite interesting. Very weird to kind of mentally get into that space, especially because us here in South Africa had a bit of, it was a late one. It was like the World Cup all over again. 10 p.m. and we got to watch an unbelievable game of rugby with two very different teams playing each other. Um, and then a two flipping day wait until the rest of the party started. So yeah, it was fun, but it was disruptive.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think we'll talk about Ireland, I guess, in a few moments, but I kind of think that also made the post-mortem even longer was the fact that they had the whole of Friday and pretty much half of Saturday to lament, like, where Irish rugby is going and all that sort of stuff, which I think made things worse. But yeah, Sean, I think let's start there. It's France really coming in strong in this Six Nations, winning 36 points to 14 against Ireland. I mean, they were leading at halftime 22-0 and were actually leading 29-0 before the bench came. So I think this could have been much worse if France really wanted to, put the dagger in. Um, Sean, yeah, what I think as a general thing, obviously France also were coming in under pressure. I think they probably would have been the most under pressure team in the Six Nations. I think Galtier was also under a lot of pressure for um, whether he can succeed and the big calls he made with selection. And they just came out blazing, and it felt like a lot of the calls that Galtier made to change the game plan, to pick certain players, all came off well.
Yes, quite interesting how the whole thing unfolded. It was very much a as good as France were and as well as they executed, like Ireland were not in the game and like didn't execute.
Mm,
Things got better for Ireland mostly when the bench came on, but I think that also coincided with France kind of taking their foot off the gas, Ireland trying to give it one more go, getting into their rhythm. It's probably the only positive they'll be able to take out of it was how a couple of the bench players sort of changed things up. Um, and I think the one thing that I would change is I was never a fan of having Conan and Doris playing together, but I really felt that Ireland missed Conan's carries. To be fair, they normally would have something like that with McCarthy, who did not have a good game. Like it's not that he didn't have a good game, he just didn't have the game that he normally has. Like he's normally
mm.
your big hard carrier. Then you got Byrne there in the locks. Like they Ireland matched up pretty well 4-8 to compete against the France 4-8. Like I really thought that they had it. Like there were definitely pros and cons of each of those sort of groups of players for either side. And I thought that there was a good enough chance for the one to cancel out the other with while the one was on top and the other being on top in other sort of aspects. So yeah, I just think like having McCarthy not carry really like they're used to him carrying and being at ruck time, and probably highlighted not having Conan start. So that's a one-off thing with McCarthy, to be fair. Like th that's something that you're kind of like, well, that never really happened. So, if he has a little bit of a slump, he'll probably be better in the next for the rest of the tournament anyway. That's really the only issue I had. Like they were just lacking that little impetus of that drive, that front foot ball, stuff like that. But the French Lucy's, but their 4 to 8 were incredible,
Just really
absolutely
good.
incredible. They were they were so amazing. And I know Gillard is spoken about, but Jegu, is it Jegu? He had an astronomical amount of touches. Like,
Mm.
if you have a look at his numbers, he touched the ball, I think, double the amount of times that Gillard touched the ball. And yeah, it was amazing. I thought Galtier has done really well with Mikhail Gillard and where he positions him in the field. He essentially, for South African fans and for people who don't really follow French football, it's they positioned him in a place where the Springboks position Jasper Visser. Like he was in that eighth man role as a number four lock, specifically off the restarts and all that, where he was just given the freedom to carry and offload and just go mad. Um, so that gave them an extra weapon. And the other thing I thought um, Matthew Jalibert, Mathieu, sorry, I thought Jalibert was excellent in playing a game plan that is not his natural game plan. He carried really hard. Like he normally carries into space, but he was carrying into traffic. Like he really picked up a different style of game plan. He did really well, but it was clear to me that he was playing slightly different to the freedom he normally plays with. And that is amazing for everything. That is, to me, it shows that whatever issues there was with him and him being dropped and him walking out and him in coaches and nines and not nines and whatevers seems to be away. Like he really, when a player goes out and plays more on the game plan, which is less of their style, it's amazing. And the best part is we've got to see some of his magic as well. So I thought as good as France were and as well as they executed, Ireland were bad. And Ireland, I think, were caught a little bit with their pants down. First game of the tournament, not really at that level they should be. And by the time they needed to build into it, they were just so far behind. France could really coast.
So basically, Sean, I think it was, I just saw it being picked. I think their loose forwards were a lot better with, trailing kicks, as you've seen with England, South Africa, that they're there to pick up the scraps. And I think on the Irish side, Tommy O'Brien just wasn't getting any kicks, and the kicks kicked to him. I mean, France were able to turn it over and create opportunities from it.
Yeah, it was. Gibson Park's kicks were, I thought, especially in the first half, I thought his kicks were really good.
Mm,
And it is so weird that Ireland, uh, to me, it felt like they retained none in the first half. And they were out of, they had probably 80% of his kicks, maybe more. I'm really sucking thumb here, but
mm.
they seemed contestable. And Ireland generally do quite well there, especially with what's his face? Stockdale on the wing. Like he's pretty good in the air. Like I was just weird. O'Brien, he's growing on me. I never thought when he was playing for Leinster, I was like, everyone's talking about him playing for Ireland. I was like, oh, whatever. I quite like his. I quite like. He's got a Van Cork vibe about him in that he just goes everything like full tilt. But yeah, he didn't have a great game. He wasn't in a lot of spaces. We'll talk about one of his defensive reads a little later. But yeah, for Ireland not to win those contestables was very weird. I would say, and I did see there was someone that was talking about the Ireland tactics after the game, and they were like, he feels the tactics were pretty good, and I would tend to agree. Like they, I think them not being able to retain any kicks in that first half is not something that is a tactic thing or a personnel thing or a form thing. I think it was just one of those weird ones. I could be wrong, but like if they just win one out of three of those in the first half, it really is a different game.
Yeah.
Ireland probably get a point of some sort, whether it's a penalty or a try or something, and it changes things. It also like imagine Gibson Parks kicking all day. He's kicking these absolute bombs. They're beautiful, and then Ireland every single time they turn around, they got France running back at them. Like you must be like, well, what the hell are we doing? Maybe they also are like, it's not our day. That kind of creeps in sometimes. But yeah, it was very interesting. It was weird how they didn't retain those kicks and everything was falling really well for France. What I will say is there were a lot of 50-50 things that did not go for Ireland. And it wasn't that they didn't go for Ireland because of the bounce of the ball, but there were a lot of stuff when the ball squirts out the ruck and
Mm.
France were first at it. And Ireland were not awake to an opportunity that France were very much aware of. Like they were aware something was going to happen, or they were just hyper like vigilant around spaces that could provide some love where I thought Ireland weren't. There was a lot. I can distinctly remember two uh, parts in that first half where the ball squirted out a ruck or the ball came free from something and France were on it. There were almost two of them there before there was an Irish guy there and they won it comfortably. It wasn't even an arm wrestle. You know what I mean? So there were quite a few things, but yeah, those contestables and that kicking situation was very, very weird. And yeah, I do agree with you. I thought O'Brien didn't have his best game.
Yeah, I think it's just I think it just shows also just the different mentality from France, like just a development from November, where I think South sort of showed them a lesson with, the kick chase and winning those 50-50 balls. And France really, I think this was their focus, I guess, for this game was to really improve that aspect of the game. And they know that with South Africa, I think even with England, you need to be able to fight for those 50% balls because that's when South Africa or England have enough of the ball to really punish you. And yeah, I think Galtier took a risk with picking a lighter sort of back five in their forwards. Like the two locks are basically loose forwards. And it worked because they were first to every ball and they were able to really impose themselves. I think the other thing is France just absolutely dominated them physically. And the dominant tackles from the game, it's like I think it's 11-3. Um, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was a big distance between the two. And again, going back to those stats, um, Ireland allowed the most offloads by far in the first round of Six Nations, given they're playing France. So obviously, France is going to probably offload more than most, but 32 offloads, and the second highest was 11. And that 53 negative collisions. And I think you could feel that. Like, it was just not like none of Ireland's world-class forwards. So Sheehan, Doris, Van der Fleer, Byrne, McCarthy, we talked about a bit earlier. None of them, it felt like, ever really won their personal battles.
Yeah. Um, I can't really add much to that. I think you're right. Like those dominant tackles and those contests were Ireland were blown away. And they really the thing is like that back five of France was light and mobile, but they packed a punch. The Irish back five were big and strong and heavy, but they didn't pack a punch.
Mm.
So it was so weird. That offload thing is something that I think is going to be a bit of a concern to a lot of teams, and it's going to be something that teams will be focused on trying to minimize. And I think what France are going to try and do is try and maximize that. You don't get that after 1 week of training or 1 week of focus. Like it's clearly something that they've been working on. For it to come so good in relatively crappy weather is quite beautiful. Um, and it's something that highlights so their game plan and the personnel that Galtier picked like really highlights an offloading game plan when you've got such a mobile pack, such unbelievable backline players. I mean, Atisogbe hardly touched the ball in anger. That was something that I was like, I really wish I could have seen him with more ball in hand, but it just wasn't that game for him. And sometimes there's a winger that just doesn't get any love. It's just the way it is. But when he got
Yeah.
it, when the opportunity was there, he took it. And that's also massive. Like he was hungry the whole way. But France offloading, generally an offload, especially at that level, especially with the dominance the French pack France were having as a whole, when an offload like that comes, like you're generally breaching the line. Like you are forcing a whole bunch of like spidey senses
Mm.
to sort of alert and scramble to happen in the defense to try and kind of reel everyone in and allow you to reset your line. And yeah, man, it was quite clear. Just thinking back now in the first half, like that every single time that was happening, they were just like 20, 30 meters, just having a party, man.
Yeah, it just that's the thing with France. If you don't stop them at source, it just cascades. Like it just they build up momentum so well because they have these big ball carriers. And I mean, Geard, I think, was a good example of that. Like he had 14 carries in the first half, and I don't think all of them were dominant. I think probably not even half of
Seven.
them. Seven were
Yeah.
dominant, so let's say
Yeah.
half, literally half. But a lot of it was also just him getting his arm around and popping it to someone, and then they can make meters. I think Miafu for that last try was able to do that as well, getting it to Atisogbe. Like you, there needs to be something that you do to stop France. Either try to sort of hit them as hard as possible, or compete at the rack. And Ireland did neither. And then that's when they can sort of just set the terms for their attack. I guess the other one more positive thing I'll say for France is, yeah, I like what you say about Jalibert. Yeah, I think it was just an like it was one of those games that if Ntamak had it, people would be like, "Oh, he's not being as flashy as Jalibert would be." Like it was literally Jalibert acting like an adult, and now people are seeing sort of the value of that. And yeah, he passed a pretty big test. I mean, look, this island game maybe wasn't as hard as we thought it would be, but these are the big games that Jalibert needs to prove himself in if he wants that 10 jersey permanently. But that French backline worked really well on Thursday. So yeah, hopefully we can see more of it. I think Morfana's out this weekend, but yeah, we'll see about that.
I
Yeah.
do want to just say something about the nines, but particularly about Antoine Dupont. So I thought Gibson Park was that guy that was doing everything in the first half. Like he was the guy keeping Ireland together, like
Mm,
somehow with his fingernails hanging onto the game. He was really, really busy. And listen, it was a stage where I think he got more meters traveling through the air than he did with running with the ball because he was getting bounced so many times.
yeah.
But there were a couple of people that I saw in one of my groups that was just like, "Yeah, Gibson Park is destroying DuPont," and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, everyone, calm down." Like, I thought Gibson Park was good, but the thing is, he was so busy. Like, you got that kind of idea that he was everywhere doing everything
Yeah.
at Gibson Park, yeah. But I thought Antoine Dupont was brilliant.
Yeah.
You talk about Jalibert playing within himself and playing within the game plan. I thought it was very similar with Dupont. Like Dupont is so mature and so aligned with himself and has so much faith in what he needs that he doesn't feel like he needs to go out and do something in order to be really, really good. Like everybody else was doing it. So all he did was link. He was just
Mm,
linking, he was playing, he was capitalizing on an error from Ireland, like with a good kick or with a pass or whatever. I thought Dupont was great in him just doing his job because everyone around him was running great lines in great spaces, doing great things. Like there was no need to force it.
Yeah, I think that's the magic with France is once they get that offloading game going and they're now less Dupont centric, they've been able to build this game plan. Now it's all about, they've adjusted their kicking game well to we've gone from kicking long and then sort of waiting for you to make a mistake and then we counter to we'll kick to contest the ball. So if we win the 50-50, we pass it back out 15 meters to Ramos or Jalibert in the backfield, and they start the counterattack. And now it's danger. So it's very exciting. I think there'll be a lot of I think there's a lot of, I think the debate about the King contest thing is quite cool. You can see the pros and cons, but it does also create opportunities for broken play. So I'm really excited to see how France impacts on that because we know how dangerous they are. Sure, let's go to Ireland now. I think let's start with the Sam Prendergast discourse. Yeah, there's a lot that he's catching smoke for this game. And yeah, I guess my point was I don't think it's all justified. That I think in context, a lot of the things that he did that were mistakes, you can understand why he did it. Like, I think there's some things where he was pushing the game maybe and doing a bit too much. Like when he volleyed that kick from Jalibert and then it caused the try from LBB, the intercept, like the one time he passed to O'Brien in or Osborne, sorry, in the try area. But I don't think the defense was too much of a problem. Like he made 13 out of the 20 tackles. He just had to make 20 tackles because France were targeting him a lot, which he has to get used to. And I don't mind him if he's defending him at the front, I think that's fine. It's when he's at the backfield where he can be stepped and run over that I think it's a big problem. So yeah, one, I don't think it changes the results if Crowley started from the first minute. Two, I don't know what you want any team to do in that context when their pack is getting manhandled.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna go out to bat for him. There are four things I'd like to highlight. Probably five. Don't know, can't count. But anyway. So that fly kick resulting in the LBB try.
Mm.
Okay. I totally understand what he was going to do there. Like he's damned if you do, damned if you don't in that situation. If he collects that ball, he's carrying it over the line. They're gonna take the ball from him, quick throw in potentially, then he's gonna get blamed. He throws the ball away, it's a penalty France, he's gonna get blamed. You know, they're gonna be like, why didn't you kick it away? He goes and fly kicks it. Firstly, how you can fly kick it and it doesn't go far and it stays in field is kind of unusual too. There's that.
It's a crazy,
Like
it's
all of
actually a
that.
crazy volley. Ramos is going
Yes.
to get all the news, but that was also ridiculous.
Yes. So I don't think that was the worst decision. Then fast forward a phase and 30 seconds, there was a lot of heat on him for missing that tackle. He's literally someone else has missed it. I think it was Gibson Park who missed the first tackle. Prendergast is then chasing and then he gets a half ankle tap in.
Mm.
So it is classed as a missed tackle. It is, but he did bring the guy down and then Ireland was scrambling there. The fact that everyone got done in 5 meters is wild. So there's that. The there's another thing. I think Prendergast is very much low-hanging fruit at the moment. I think it's really easy to blame him. I think it's just everyone's doing it for the sake of it as well. Like that's just kind of their thing. So I'm even more like I get into a defensive mode there. I'm like, let me really watch this guy and see where I can defend him. So I feel like that's what I'm doing and where I am. There was a time where Ireland were on attack and he offloaded to Van der Fleer and Van der Fleer knocked on. On
Mm.
the group, everyone was like, "Oh, that is not like that. That's amateur stuff. Like if you play club rugby in South Africa and do that, you'll get taken off by your coach." And I'm like, "Well, actually, I thought that was so on. Like they were 12-ish, 15 meters up, maybe a little bit closer. That offload breaks the French line. You're not going to slow the ball down because if he doesn't offload, slow ball, France reset their massive defense, and
Mm.
then you're gonna just eat shit again. So I thought it was on. He even gets to the deck, looks at Van der Fleer, and then pops. So it wasn't even like a random no looker. So I thought that was good. That intercept pass, that pass was on. He just didn't get it over Atisogbe, I think it was, but that pass was on. Like Atisogbe shoots into the line, Prendergast picks it up and he's like, cool, I'm not going to give you an intercept. I'm going to lob it over you, and then we got a 2-on-1. And I don't know who it was. It might have been Stockdale was drifting. Like it was on then. And so that's just it was such a fine line because Stockdale was probably just a meter too close. If he was a meter further out, that pass could have drifted a little bit more. It was such a fine line. And then the Jalibert try. So France attack on the blind. They're essentially making a 3-on-2 if Dupont runs with it on the blind side, but he passes straight to Jalibert, which makes it kind of a 2.5-on-2. Okay. O'Brien shoots in at 45 degrees. It's a plan call. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Like that's a plan call. Is shot up to execute that tackle. Prendergast has to shift over to cover last man, which is Bill Barret, if I'm not mistaken. He has to. And in the while he's doing that, O'Brien doesn't make his hit because Jalibert just bounces him, cuts inside, and then the vacuum left from where Prendergast was and from the ruck or the scrum, whatever it was, the forwards don't come into that space to cover that. And Prendergast is essentially running full tilt to the right and then has to step and run to the left, and it's a weak shoulder on Jalibert who's running full gas. So I'm sorry, like I know it was a missed tackle and I know it resulted in a try, but that missed tackle is like it can count as a half because it wasn't his. It wasn't his man. Like it's a recovery tackle he's making. He's not making that one-on-one. So the other thing on the seven missed tackles, because seven's a mad number. So Ireland I think they have 3 or 4 players in the missed tackle top 10 from the weekend.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're the top three.
yeah, Prendergast is one. Okay, Ringrose is another, and then Stockdale's the other
Gibson
one.
Park.
And Gibson Park too. Like to miss so much on your inside backs and so much on your outside backs is a bit of a hassle. Like you're gonna get your ass whipped either way. So yeah, and the thing is I don't think I'm trying to think of which of his missed tackles and not recovery tackles, which of his missed tackles really resulted in a line break or some serious damage. I don't think it was a lot. So I think the stats are not doing him justice. I think the stats are an easy number to look at and just throw shit against the wall and hope it sticks. But what I will say about Prendergast's on attack, when Ireland got a little bit of something, like when they could breathe on attack, he was unbelievable. His touches, his slight delays, his holding off for players to commit to him and offload, like his hands are ridiculously soft and really like he's really nimble in that sort of short contact space. So yeah, and listen, he kicks well. Like he's got a spiral up and under, he's got a torpedo kick for the corner, he's got options. So, and having said that, Crowley didn't come on at 10. Crowley came on at 15.
Mm,
They took O'Brien off and they put Crowley at 15
mm.
and they moved what's his face to the wing.
Osborne.
So all the good attacking stuff happened with Prendergast at 10 anyway. So you kind of
Mm.
got to look at it. It wasn't Crowley. Crowley was operating from 15, but it was a good dovetail for Ireland though.
Yeah. I guess the big question for Ireland is what now? And, they're kind of in danger of slipping now into, I mean, I think there's like the main table in like in tier one, like that top 4, 5 for the last like year or so with South Africa, France, England's joined the party, New Zealand's still around, and Ireland have been there, but it seems like they've been slipping, I guess, the last few months and year or so. And this loss, and obviously the losses last year to South Africa and New Zealand, make it seem like, oh, they're going to join now the second table with Argentina and Australia and Italy and Scotland. Like on their day, they could do something and maybe can sneak a win here and there. But we don't trust them to be consistent. They're going to lose much more than they win against the top five. And it seems like Ireland is kind of caught in between that. And I think caught in between approaches of their game plan, like, which is, I think, where now this conversation about Jacques Nienaber also comes in, is I think Farrell was trying to purposefully change the way that they played, stop being high possession, stop being multi-phase, and be a bit more like kicking, counter-attack, like use the defense to sort of come on top and counter from that. But it doesn't quite work for a few reasons. They just don't, I don't think they have like the big bodies that you need for it to work. And it just seems like they need to rely on certain players that maybe aren't on their best form for that. Like I think you need James Lowe, for example, if you're going to do a kick chase game. Hansen, Keenan, obviously those players are injured. But up front, like you said earlier, maybe Conan needs to start. Maybe Dogbo needs to get a chance, maybe just to help Doris on the carrying. But you're gonna be the seventh best team or sixth best team with that approach. Do you maybe go back to the high possession, multi-phase approach, which maybe doesn't fully suit Prendergast because he doesn't maybe sit like, he's a sort of a, I think the nice thing was with the sort of the more defensive counter-attacking game, he's such a good kicker and he's able to bring people in with his passing game. Whereas I think if you go back to high possession, he's not like there's a lot where he is like Sexton, but there's a lot where he's not. And it's just like, okay, is that maybe preferable for him? It's something I think a lot of the defenses now read quite easily. So when Ireland tried to put phases together, I think even in this game, and they tried to sort of go back to their old patterns, France, and we've seen with South Africa, we've seen with New Zealand, we've seen with England, they know who is it going to. They aren't really bamboozled by the multiple running lines. They know who to smoke and they know how to interrupt it. So, and I don't know what the answer is for Farrell. Like, where do you go with this? And yeah, obviously there's a lot of consternation and like hand wringing about where you go. There's a lot of like, okay, these players should play and all that sort of stuff. This is still a very good team. I think it's clearly the third best team in the Six Nations. I think they do. I wouldn't be surprised they beat England and Twickenham, but they need to make some sort of call now for the next year or 2 years in this Sparrow era.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, so firstly, I just want to go back to the beginning.
Mm,
Ireland, you're so right that Ireland they're flirting with dropping another kind of opinion tier
yeah.
where they're not going to be deadly for 8 games. Like you know that they're not going to go on an 8 game unbeaten streak to go and win the World Cup or whatever the case may be. But they're good enough to beat anyone in one game. So there's that. So you have to prepare for them. You have to prepare really, really, really well. And that also actually, ironically, um, we'll see them be on the end of big beatings because sides are worried about the old Ireland. Then the new Ireland pitches up, and then they're not even the best new Ireland, and then they get smoked because you're on top of your game. So um, I think people will still be a little bit worried about them and fear them. But there's some things that need to change. And you don't want it to be, and it already kind of is, like changes where Farrell needs to be making, all coaches need to be making changes relatively organically. Even if it comes with a loss or something, you eventually buy into it where they make changes and allow other players to come into the mix, and you start seeing the pros and cons those other players have where you realize that this player can't play so well with this guy. So you kind of got to have to change your loose trio or change your halfback pairing or change your game plan a little bit. Or, where with the Springboks we had a stage where we had like 3 game plans and we had 4 different teams and they were interchangeable. And it takes a while to get there, but you can't have one game plan. Like that's the one thing about Ireland on Thursday is Ireland were playing in a space on Thursday that wasn't working, and it took them too long to adjust. And when they did adjust, it was too late. There's a fine, and having said that, there's such a fine line between let's stick to our game plan, we will overcome the process,
Mm.
to they're onto us. We really need to just make some adjustments. And I think where where it's really good is if you can move away from your A game plan, your first game plan for that game, move into another game plan, but then go back to your first game plan again. Sometimes you need to shake it up. Sometimes you need to shift that point of contact to the 13 channel and not have it in the 10 channel. Like you need to make that team change the way they are seeing your game and how they defend or whatever the case may be. So there's that. So that's what's going to happen. There are a couple of players that are really like I know that I spoke about Conan starting. I thought Ken Prendergast, while he looked quiet on first watch, he actually was very busy. Like he was one of those guys that was head down.
Mm.
Timoney's there and in the mix. Where does the Dogba come in? I'm sure if Farrell had an inkling that McCarthy wasn't going to be his Ibn Etzebeth self, they probably would have started a Dogba. But Dogba would have been brilliant to come off the bench and play blindside as well, to be fair. So I think, like, if not then when? It's going to be this weekend. You're going to have a great game against Italy, or maybe you're not. And then there's going to be force changes. So you do want things to be relatively organic, and you don't want them to be under the pressure you are now. Having said that, there's probably a clear plan about who's going to play when. I don't think South Africa are the only team that does that. I think everyone is quite aware of what's going on and how it's going to work. So, yeah, it's going to be challenging. And I don't even think a 50-point win against Italy this weekend will take the pressure off Farrell.
No.
Farrell's created, or Ireland have created a pressure that will last them until November. So they need to be in showing positive growth for like 6, 7 games in a row, 8, 9, 10. And I don't know if they can do that because they run into some big boys along the way. They're under pressure. They're starting to doubt themselves. And they're playing an Italian side who, like, I don't want to put the markers on them, but they don't mind playing away from home. They're comfortable in their own skin. They're bringing back some new players. They're players that really good players that want to be part of this vibe that weren't part of
Mm.
it on Saturday, you know? So yeah, so it could be interesting. Probably one of the definitely the highlight games to watch this weekend would be Ireland Italy, just purely because of the story around it. And
Mm.
the thing is you want Ireland to really take some big steps forward, like as a game plan, as a game management, as an individual performance, etc., etc. Like there's a lot that you need from them.
Yeah. Look, this weekend, yeah, it's up for grabs. I mean, we're going to talk about Italy, I think, in a few moments. And it's such an interesting selection call that Farrell makes. There's so many ways this could go. Like, if it is like Farrell sticks to the almost the same team and they lose or they have a very scratchy win against Italy, is that then it for the Van der Fleers? Um, I think even Tyburn wasn't good. I mean, he had three turnovers at the end, but I think he. I don't know if it's his face, but he just looks tired the whole time. Like,
That guy's had no break.
I
He's had no
mean,
break. He came back from the Lions to had an operation and then was playing like the week after he was available.
yeah, I mean, I get that, and I mean, I think that's the general excuse I think for a lot of the Irish players. But like, he just seems especially tired. But I mean,
Yeah.
at least I guess rely on him more than Leinster rely on their whole pack of Irish players. Sheehan wasn't good, and I mean, that's a rare thing to say about him. I Yeah, like they just need to find a balance because obviously there's been a lot of calls for like Low to get dropped, but I think he got dropped in the wrong game. Like this was probably more of a game for James Lowe to be contesting in the air with Atasogbe. They are missing Keenan and Hansen. Maybe if you have Hansen, Keenan, and Lowe as your back three, this kick chase game there's different results to it as well. Like, yeah, there's a lot that's on the balance here. Like they win and they win the same side. I guess things just continue until I guess the next big loss, and then there's another crisis. But I mean, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it now with Italy, but there's definitely now more than a 30-40% chance that Italy could turn them over. And then what? And we saw what Italy did to Scotland. They have a strong scrum, they have a really good line out. Their kick contest is really good as well. So yeah, I think the main thing that Ireland can take from that the bench coming on is, which is interesting because you were saying like they changed their approach maybe too late. Ben Young's he was talking for the Rugby podcast, and he said actually the problem I think from the 20th to the 30th minute or to like half time is once France got 2 tries ahead, Ireland were trying to now keep the ball and not kick as much. They made mistakes, and then I think that was when Van der Fleer got tackled into touch. They did the quick line out, and then they scored that third try, and they kind of panicked into trying sort of to chase the game. Whereas then when the second half, they went back to the kick chase game, and they just weren't kicking on Tommy O'Brien because he was off the field. Stockdale had a bit more purchase with that, and then they were able to build momentum. So there's something, I guess, with the kick chase game, and maybe Italy won't punish you as much as France did, although Italy were quite good. But yeah, this selection is going to be very, very interesting. And Farrell was quite angry after the game. Like he said, like there were things that the Irish team let him down on. So this could be, I think, one of those either it's a last chance saloon or it is pretty much a cheers goodbye to some players and others we might not see for a while. So yeah, I think there's a lot of drama that's going to come out of Ireland this week.
Yeah, and listen, anyone that gets dropped now, like you've still got ample time to get over it, sort yourself out, really put in a massive shift at domestic level and get a call up for the World Cup. Like it's not your World Cup over. It's not a World Cup year. So yeah, there's that. And that's a great point by Youngs. Like when you speak about it, then I was kind of remembering actually, yeah, they were like kind of scrambling a little bit. And France do that. They draw you into their space. One last thing about the French side, which I overlooked and I should have spoken about, but how good is it to see Baptiste Serin back in the French team again? Damn, I missed him.
That one dummy he did of Tyburn was really, really good. Like, I mean, it's crazy that he's the fourth, maybe even fifth choice scrum half. Like that just shows how crazy their depth is right now. I think
Second
Mofana,
choice. He has
yeah,
to be second forever.
I think
Forever.
Mofana also had a really good game. Unfortunately, he's
Yeah.
injured now, but like he like they just don't have a 12 like him. I know they're trying Noah Nene. I think he plays for Stade Francais, but he's not there yet. And Mofana took him a long time to get here. And he's finally now a really good, solid international 12. Like he can hold his own against, Tupelotu or DLND and those sort of players. Like he's really given them impetus. Deporté had, I think, his best test. I think he was just a
Machine.
menace carrying the ball. So that's probably the end for Galthie Coup at 98 caps, which is crazy unfortunate. Yeah, I think we talked about Jago, we talked about Atisogbe. Like, there's just, I love Olivon at lock. I think he should sort of stay there. Maybe he's going to be the reserve lock instead of Aradu. But yeah, I think the only weak or the only bad point for France was the bench not performing, but it's hard to perform when you're 29 or up. I think England had the same problem as well. So yeah, I think France, I mean, they're going to Cardiff this weekend, and yeah, I think say make sure the kids go to bed early. That could get really ugly. Um, let's go to Rome. First of all, crazy rain. I think that's the main thing to take away from that game. Just insane sort of like buckets of rain falling down. But Italy getting a big historic win over France, I mean over Scotland. Shaun, yeah, let's okay, we'll get to Italy, but I think let's just get it all out about Scotland now. I think it's better to get it out now than later. I you know what? Okay, my sort of mini rant, maybe you have a bigger rant, is You know it's going to rain. You pick Dobie on the wing. You don't pick Blake Kinghorn, who's pretty much as tall as a house. You try Tom Jordan. That's probably not really his game to be like a rain fullback. You have a 5-3 bench. Like you play 6-2 most times and you don't even use a six forward. This is probably the one time to pick your six forward. You don't pick Hiddleston, who's been on pretty good form, and you pick the two hookers that are in terrible form that can't throw to save their lives. And then you complain when people find you out that you've signed a contract with Newcastle. A big surprise. Obviously, you're pretty much moonlighting for them right now. You then go, well, it's a plot by England to get them off for the Calcutta Cup game. What about the game you're playing this weekend? I He needs to go. He needs to go very quickly. Franco Smith needs to come in because I think it's made worse now by how good Glasgow is in Europe. They beat Toulouse. They're the second seed in Europe. They're top of the URC. 70% of those players are in the Scottish 23, and they all just look average.
Every the best performing Scottish player on Saturday was Australian. Like,
Gage is
I
in
just want
great
that
form,
to
to be fair to him.
I just want that to sink in. Like, there's that. I'm going to jump on that rant with you. Not having Blair Kinghorn in your match day 23, when it is, this is an official terminology, by the way, when it is shitting down with rain, like, is the dumbest thing I have seen in forever. That rain didn't come as a surprise, surprise.
Mm.
Okay. It was for real. Blake Kinghorn, maybe Gregor doesn't know this, but Blake Kinghorn can kick the ball pretty far out of hand and off the tee.
Mm.
Imagine, imagine if Italy were worried about conceding a penalty in like the first 50 meters of the field, because that's what Kinghorn would have done. Even if you wallop it down there and you miss, they still have to hoof it back. You get another chance. I Kinghorn alone not being in that side is enough to warrant a proper hearing for me. Like, the big boys need to call in Gregor and be like, come, just explain this one and only thing for me. This is what you know. You know the weather's going to be this. You know this guy can kick like this. And you know that it's probably going to be a close game if we don't pitch up, which they didn't. But it'll probably be a close game in the shitting rain, which it was. So answer me that. The other thing, conversely, Italy played that weather to perfection because they literally unleashed the most unbelievable wide style game plan in the beginning
Mm.
before the rain came. There was rain, but there wasn't rain like it was
Mm.
raining. Like they went as deep as knowing like we need to really strike while the iron's hot and play expansive. We need to scare the shit out of Scotland. They think we're going to be conservative. We're not. We're going to really exploit them a little bit. Brex was involved in both of those tries, who's not available this weekend, sadly.
Oh.
But yeah, he's off for personal leave. So yeah, so I was just unbelievable. And then Italy then just continued to actually play relatively like expansive rugby in the rain as well, which was good to see. But they
Mm.
changed everything the way they did. I think they didn't allow Scotland a line break.
No.
Like,
And Scotland, they kicked the least out of all the teams, go figure, playing in the rain. You are doing this all like in all this or in the stats that we have from Ultimate Rugby, like they are top of all of the rucks. Like they attending all the rucks. Like Xander Ferguson, like that's his thing. Like he's really, really has a high work rate because he usually plays 17 minutes for Scotland. But you're doing all of that and you don't even get a line break. Like, what is the point? So they then, I think in the second half, they wake up and go, "Hey lads, I think it's raining." And then they do sort of contestable kicks. They actually get some mileage from that. And that's the way they come back into this game. I'm so tired of talking about Scotland because it feels like they're just the dumbest team in the world when they play rugby sometimes. Like, I don't know why these things are so confounding to them and the coaching staff and the players on the pitch and all that sort of stuff. I just don't understand it. Look, yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, it was wild. I got some numbers together.
Yes.
Listen, everyone was talking about the Brexit versus the Huey Pilotti. Like,
Mm.
let's be honest. So I went to pull some numbers after the game, okay, to compare. So I don't know if you saw it, but I'm gonna read it to you. I posted on our socials. Okay. So this is the comparison of the two midfields versus each other at the end of the game. Tackles made by Italy, so Brexit tackles made 20, okay? They made 100% of them. Q only made 6, and they made 67%. Okay, so they weren't even sending traffic down their way. Post-contact meters, 91 versus 39. Okay, so they really kind of the thing is Tuipulotu and Jones were not in the game on attack. They just weren't.
I forgot
Um,
about Jones
it was
until like he
crazy.
made that bad pass, I think, in the like last 20 minutes.
Yeah, so they were just not there. And that's ironically their bread and butter.
Mm.
But then when you look at the passes, the Brexit made one pass between the two of them the whole game. Okay. And Hugh Pilotu made 10. So they were clearly being more expansive, Scotland, in the shitting rain. Okay. Kicks, both of them made one kick each. Gain line carries 8 versus 8. Dominant tackles, Italy 3, Scotland 0. Defenders beaten 4 versus 4. Clean breaks, 2 clean breaks from Italy, 0 from Scotland. Bad passes, 0 from Italy, 1 from Scotland. Line break assists, 1 from Italy, 0 from Scotland. Carry, carry from the playmaker. So being in the position of playmaker, whether you're at 9 or 10,
Mm.
88% of the time did Brex and Minicello carry. 78% of the time was it Tuipulotu Jones. And then Italy's midfield only had 10 touches of the ball, like where they got to handle the ball to do something, where is Scotland was 27. So they were clearly overplaying everything and
Yeah.
just not getting anywhere.
Yeah. Then they refused to learn. They were the lowest kickers last season. And I kind of get it. You have this awesome back line, like you have, you know, man for man, maybe the best attack in the Six Nations. But yeah, the proof is not in the pudding. And again, you're playing in, Noah's Ark, and you decide to still sort of pursue this kicking game. It was only in the second half when White and then George Horn were putting those kicks up and they started retaining them. Then they realized, oh, this is much easier than trying to run 40, 50 meters. So it's just so confounding because again, these players, when they play for Glasgow, are able to thrash Munster, are able to beat Toulouse, are able to do so many things, and it's the same set of players, and they look less than themselves. Like there's not even much you can bash Finn Russell on. Like I think he was okay. He could have taken a bit more control. And I feel like if he was at Bath, he would have been like, guys, this is stupid. We're not going to play this game in this rain. But yeah, everyone just sort of shrugs their shoulders. I think the last thing to have a rant about the Scotland is what the hell was that line out? What was going on? Like they have, I think, two penalties in the Italy 22. They kick them to touch. They can't even throw the ball in. Like it gets stolen or they lose it, whatever the case is. So then you're losing those two opportunities. Your lineout is a mess. Then your hookers just decide one does a high tackle that was likely not to be a yellow card. The other does a clean out that's likely not to be a red card. The best thrower you have was Matt Fagerson. Like, I don't get this. You have Cummings there. He's a test lion. You have Gilchrist there. Like you've been talking last season about how good Gilchrist is. Sander Fagerson is back. Your scrum's still going backwards. Fischetti was the one that had to be yellow carded against Bordeaux a few weeks back when the Northampton was facing them. Like nothing worked. I think it was actually, and that's probably the one criticism I have of Italy. Italy should have been done with that game by about 50 minutes. Like they did butcher a few chances, I think, early in the second half, where they could have got like a 14-point lead, and that's pretty much a 40-point lead in the rain. but they kept Scotland in it, and then it became a lot more tense than it should have been. But yeah, I'm really mildly shocked that he's still in his job right now.
Yeah, it's mad. I, I want to talk about Jack Dempsey.
Let's talk
Like,
about Jack Dempsey. The one
let's talk about the positive. Jack Dempsey was ridiculous. Post-contact meters, second highest of the whole weekend with
Mm,
60. 7 dominant carries. Like, just insane. 28 rucks, 19 ruck wins, 12 gain line carries, a CTR of 57. Like, he was doing it all. He was doing
mm,
it all, bearing in mind, for an eighth man to really perform the way he did when you didn't have a scrum, you didn't have a line out, and you were losing all the contests everywhere is actually quite wild. Like, I know I like the guy, but he really was like what Gibson Park was for Ireland on Thursday, Dempsey was for Scotland. The reason why Italy didn't run away with it is because Dempsey was keeping players in the game. And it really pissed me off. Like, Carl Steyn started. Like, this my guy. And Scotland go and dish up that horse shit.
mm.
It was,
Stain was
it
probably,
was
yeah, I was going
diabolical.
to say Stain was probably also in that maybe top three of players that didn't embarrass themselves. Like he was really good to
Yes.
kick chase. Like that's the reason why he's picked over Graham and Duan van der Merwe is to be able to contest. And they just
That
forget
was a
about
good
that.
selection for the rain.
Yeah.
Carl Steyn's the right guy.
And then they have JB Dobie on the other wing just to balance it out.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was just strange. What I also found fascinating, but I could really be making something up here, but like there was I saw like there was some post-match interviews afterwards, and Carl Steyn was one of the players interviewed, and I'm like, well, hang on a second, isn't it supposed to be your captain?
No, he's
So
he's
maybe
definitely
there is
seen
a
as
bit
one of
of
the leaders.
dissension in the ranks.
I think he's seen as one of the leaders. Like he's been front
Yeah.
and center for a lot of the press stuff the last few weeks. Maybe because he's obviously like the leader for Glasgow, so he's maybe in that leadership, like what circle, whatever the case is. Look, I think Sione was fine, like post game. I think he owned up to like this is just not good enough. I think that's why Finn is not the captain anymore. He's too tired of talking about this rubbish, and I'm sure he's annoyed with just this how low these standards are now. Yeah, look, they face England. We know what the story's going to be. Like at the very least, Tooney's good at getting them up for England. But
He
yeah,
doesn't have to get them up for England. He just claims it.
fair, fair. But the thing is, Sean, if I mean, and I think England are good enough to make this happen. If this is a 20-point loss in Murrayfield, I don't like, I mean, I think he could have been fine about 2 years ago, but then it's like, okay, he needs to go.
Yes. Also saw a very interesting stat, and I don't know who it was. I have a funny feeling it might have been Russ Petty. But England have a really terrible record against good, like the top five nations in the world away from home.
Yeah,
So their away from home record is not good. So Scotland should really be in the mix here. Like they've got an opportunity, but I just don't see it. And it's not because Scotland are playing badly, because I think Scotland will come up and will lift themselves up for this game. England, especially a form England and a mouthy England's everyone's final. Like everyone wants to beat them. You don't really need to work hard to get G'd up to play England if you're Scottish. But yeah, like I just think England are on a different level at the moment.
yeah, yeah. England, I think they're in the Borthwick area. They've only had away wins in Argentina and in Italy and in Wales. So yeah, that's not obviously the greatest like track record there. So yeah, that's a big focus for them this season. So it starts in Murrayfield. Let's talk positively about Italy. I mean, we're sorry that we had to get that out of our chest first because yeah, just how bad Scotland was. But that was also because Italy just made them bad. They were, like you said, they took their points early. They had a plan, which was better than having no plan for like that first 20 minutes. They contestables were great. Liner was really great in the air. That sort of, which yeah, I was thinking it was maybe a bit of improv for that first try, with Fussell passing it to Breaks for that grubber, but it seemed like it was a set play. Like more and more people, as I'm listening to it, are like, no, they knew they could sort of draw that the backfield defense out and then have the space for the grabbers. That was great. Second try was fantastic. Menoncello is so good. Zuliani was an absolute nuisance, even though he didn't get like the turnovers to reward him. I think Lamaro's found a new role there at six. I've been maybe a bit more negative on him in the past, but I think there's something there. Um, Especially if it feels like Negri's not going to be playing maybe as often. They they did this without Vincent, Capozzo, Allen. There was quite a
Ronnie.
few players. Yeah, there's quite a few players that they didn't have, and Padrello as well, the scrum half, and they were able to do this pretty well. I mean, yes, it was nervy at the end. It shouldn't have been. I think they should have taken that three a few minutes before and rather defend a 6 point lead than try to make them have the chance of maybe even like skidding a drop goal over. And they should have scored earlier, like more points, but they were in control of 90% of that game.
They were. And my word, they play well. The Canonis were brilliant. Zuliani, that guy's a machine. He, I reckon he could feel hard done by at least three of those calls where I was like,
Hmm.
"Ooh, I'm like when he got pinged or wasn't given it or something where he went in for a steal. They were so good. Like they were just cooking. They they balanced out a great game plan with great people and their emotions. Like they have put all three of those aspects together in a pot and been able to get them out. The the attacks that they were doing and how they were stretching, like going blindside to beat Scotland for that first try, I think whether it may not have been the only game plan, it was definitely a plan. Like if it's on, it's on. And when they called for it, they went. That was the other thing, is they starting to trust each other so well. Like when it's on and they call it, it goes. And then that happened. That keeps the Scottish defense super honest. Like it keeps everyone looking at the blind side. And then the next try they went open side and just smoked them. So yeah, that's a great little 1-2 punch and a great way to start up the the beginning of the win. Unbelievable! What a great yeah. I'm just looking at this like not having Horn, Hastings, and freaking Kinghorn finish off for Scotland. Yoo! That's gonna keep what's his face a little bit pissed up at night. But yeah, it was unbelievable. The thing is the balance that Italy brought, but the cohesion that they had as a team was massive.
Mm.
They're new-ish players in certain positions or places or new combos, and everyone played well. Like they played together for a while. The one thing about Italy is, like a lot of sides, like you said, like Japan done it against South Africa, and like some of these sides can really do well with a long-term prep for a game. It's
Mm.
the next game and the next game that really, really matter. And that's what we've started seeing that Italy have started piecing and sewing those together, kind of reducing those slumps in between two two good performances.
Mm.
And I think it's great. Like no one expects them to do anything in Dublin this weekend, and the pressure's off them, and that's what's also I think going to work in their favor. So yeah, it was just great. Like the balance and the cohesion they brought was probably the best thing to watch on Saturday.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that are more like positive than negative in their like all-round game. Like the scrum is really good. If they have, I mean, maybe their bench is not the best, but their starting pack can hold their own. We saw even with the South Africa game, like they were really competitive against South Africa for a lot of the game in the scrum. the line out we saw, Canone and Zambonin were competing relentlessly against Scotland and just messed that up. Their rucks are great with the Zuliani there. They have obviously, I think, a really good like depth and loose forward. Their kicking game is quite good. Gabisi's there. You have their nines are getting better at it. They're not as bad as they were maybe under Kieran Crowley. You have Bricks that's able to bail them out as well. You can have Alan there as well at the back. Like there is too many places. I think it's only really their ball in hand. They're good with a good counter attack, but ball in hand, if they have to go through multiple phases, they do sort of lose the plot a bit. But yeah, that's something that I think can grow. Like this thing gives you that opportunity and that ability to be competitive in most games that you play. And I think for Italy, the main thing now is Rome needs to be a fortress. Like they need to win many more games that in Italy than they lose. And once they get that to a positive scale, and that even England and France and the Springboks and New Zealand are all like, oh, we have to actually play our best team here. That's when Italy knows they've like fully capitalized on the talent that they have. And yeah, like they're just relentless. And I think the problem is when Scotland or a team like Scotland does the ball in hand game against Italy, it's similar to what you do against you shouldn't do against Argentina, is you do ball in hand, you better be accurate and you better get points because that's how those two teams grow into the game, is they're hitting you in defense, they're getting those tackles, and they like are dominant, or like they dominated the dominant tackles list. Like it's Sam Underhill, then it's three Italians with three dominant tackles each. And that's how they get themselves into the game. That's how I feel like then when they get the ball and carry, the carries become even stronger. Is you're allowing their defense to be dominant, and they've done this whole. I think it's now the third or fourth win they've had. I think they've done it twice against Australia where they've had to defend like in the last minutes. They love that stuff. They feels like they live for that stuff. Like that's their like red meat for them, and they love just going for 30 phases, tackling, keeping their discipline clean, and waiting for that opportunity to make the big turnover. So, yeah, this is great for Italy. I think it's a good stepping stone. It also just shows how I think dumb Scotland was with taking this approach. Yeah, I'm really excited for them because there's definitely enough there for them to at least give Ireland a good scare and then hopefully to just be at least around the game and in the game against the top two. Like, I think once Italy has that first win, not that they can relax. I think we expect a bit more than just one win, but at least now there isn't that pressure of we've lost all five, and now people are going to be telling us we need to go to the Rugby Europe Cup.
No, you're right. Like on the Europe,
Some
like
insane results.
Germany, what a comeback. Yo, anyway, but yeah, it's so difficult to. I'm looking at this game and I just keep shaking my head like, oh, Scotland, seriously. But I don't want it to be disrespectful to Italy. Like
Mm,
they did so well. Like they prepared so well, and they arguably the better story here than Scotland not performing. But
mm,
Scotland always like, this is our year, we're going to go on and win it. We have to finish above third. Like they take the eye off the ball and be like, oh, don't worry about Italy, we've got this. It's going to be a tight game in the rain. We'll just run them. So yeah, but Italy are going to cause problems. Um, I actually feel that what's happening with Italy now, and they become a little bit more appealing to players that could potentially represent them,
mm.
where they might be holding out for another side. So we saw that with Pejrello,
Liner
and sorry,
with Liner, I guess.
yeah, Varney. Like Vincent to a small degree, like I'm sure he would have got a look in a couple of years elsewhere. So like there's a lot like that's appealing for them that they can build up until the next World Cup. Like I don't think what's happening to them now is the end of the road. Like I don't think they're peaking now. I really think that they've got an opportunity to build a squad, a better, bigger squad and welcome back other players that where they're going to be in a space where you're like, oh, I'd really think that they should be playing player X because he's my favorite, but player Y, who they are playing, is actually flipping cooking, and I can understand why he's starting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think they've definitely earned that right to, yeah, like they have, I think it's getting to a point where you can say they have about 26 players that can play international rugby, like, and can play it to a pretty high standard. So, yeah, I think a bit of like here and there with maybe certain positions that they like. Riccioni was also someone that was missing, I forgot to mention. And yeah, I mean, Hassa and Di Bartolomeo, who are a little bit, I mean, less experienced, and I was a bit apprehensive of them. They held their own coming off the bench, and they still won scrum penalties. They still were able to be dominant in the set piece. So, yeah, I think yeah, it becomes a very difficult game for Ireland. Um, Going now to Twickenham, I don't know how much we can say about this game. So England winning 48 points to 7 against, oh, sorry, why am I giving them 7? Yeah, they did score 7, shame. So 48 points to 7 against Wales. Um, Shaun, I don't even know how much we can say about this. Wales conceded 10 penalties in 20 minutes. They had 2 yellow cards within the first 20 minutes. Dowie Lake is already in the sin bin. Tane Plumtree picks up his 5th yellow card in a row. Um, yeah, Wales are not, I mean, it's the Wales that we saw against the Springboks more than the Wales that we saw against New Zealand, and England are way too good to not capitalize on that.
Yeah. It's such a like I really don't even feel like the Welsh fans and the Welsh kind of super fans are even really nowhere to from here.
Mm,
There's so much disruption, there's so much confusion, there's so much talk from this corner and then this corner and then this corner. Like uh, it must be so hard for the players to kind of get lifted and get ready for this. No matter what's going on, like how much you prepare, there's always that in the back of your head. Um, and they just, you can almost see it by the way they're playing. Like they're kind of like just playing and doing their thing and being professional about it, but they know what the result's going to be. They know what's going to happen. The constant penalties and stuff like that, that's quite interesting for me because they can be better. Listen, they're missing a couple of players. There's that, which are some key players, but it doesn't fix their depth. You know what I mean? And like they're conceding stupid things, stupid penalties, and just really resigned to the fact that they're crap. Like they look like a side that's reading social media. Like they're reading all the comments when
mm.
they shouldn't. And yeah, it sucks, but this is going to be a long road.
Yeah, I mean, the fixture organizers haven't really helped them by having England and France up first as well. I mean, I guess if you can get through France as unscathed as possible, then it maybe gets easier from there. But yeah, I
What does this unscathed as possible look like to you?
just don't beat yourself as much. I think literally, I think Wales's goal should be this weekend, less than 10 or fewer penalties conceded. No yellow cards. So Tame Plumtree, you can't play this weekend.
Alex Mann,
Hey, look, it's working for Alex, man. He's getting people. I mean, Genge was very lucky he wasn't sent off at least. I actually don't understand how that didn't happen. But Alex Mann is just the riler up of all. Maybe he'll rile up Antoine Dupont and gets head butted or eye gouged by him. So Alex Mann, I think let him cook. But I
he is a dirty little shit.
he's
He's a soccer player in a rugby game.
he's only dirty if he
That's what
gets
he
caught.
that's what he is to me. He's he's involved in everything. All the time with everyone. Whenever there's shit on the field, Alex Mann is there. And it's not pushing and shoving. It's like this.
Yeah, someone needs to tell us. I think it'll only come out in like a Welsh derby And then we find out a man actually saying wild things in the ruck or is pulling and pushing things that he's not supposed to. But right now, all we see is everyone reacting to him. And it's very hilarious that at the moment he's just looking like this angel and he's just riling up all these like fantastic world-class players. Sean, just to answer your question, like I don't even think their defense was that bad. It was just like it was just those compounding things of like, okay, you give England 16 penalties for them to come into your 22. Obviously, England's going to score. So I mean, I don't really mind that. I just want them to be as clean as possible. And I just want to have some level of like idea of like where they're going. Like on one hand, not that I think this was far from the biggest problem, but I'm just like, for example, with the Reece Zammit thing, him playing at fullback. I'm not too sure about that because I think if you're a bad team, step one is how do we go from crap to competent? The easiest ways to do that is discipline, defense, and kicking. And you're sacrificing kicking a lot. And I feel like their backfield was such a mess against England because you have a wing at fullback, you are just picking this back three that doesn't really have that cohesion. And I mean, Reece Ahmed can obviously run it back and he's pretty decent at doing that. But, you get caught, turnovers, all that sort of stuff. Whereas maybe, I mean, they don't have too many options. I mean, Blair Murray was also a bit of a wild child at fullback. So I'm not too sure. I don't have a solution for this problem I'm making. But it's just, I would like for them to at least sort those three things out. Your kicking game is at least decent. Maybe I'd get Tom Rogers back because he's pretty good at the kicking contest. Your defense is fine. Like teams must just work to get a try against you, not first or second phase. Like, okay, if it's sixth phase and Ramos and Dupont do something crazy, hey, you give it to them. And then third thing, just don't concede 10 penalties and 4 yellow cards.
In 20 minutes.
As far as possible, please.
Okay.
I think
So
these
they're
are
going to take a pasting, but they're just going to be more disciplined at it.
Yeah, yes. I'm not even talking about the score. Like the score could be 100-0. It's very possible France decide to turn up. Look, France being France, this will be like a 45-25, pretty decent game. I think there's apparently like 15,000 tickets that haven't been sold yet in Cardiff, and I don't blame them. But get a ticket for this. I think this will be a very much a vibes game because France love playing down to their opposition. So this could definitely be like this like entertaining helter-skelter type of game.
At least 40 minutes.
Yes.
If France unravel in the first half, then at halftime they'll come back. No, but I agree with you. I think there could be some fun.
Or they get like a big lead and then they just decide to take off the second half and then Wales does a mini comeback, kind of like last week. So you can see this happening. What have we learned about England?
Um, George Ford is unbelievable at the moment.
Hmm.
Okay. But the the player for me is Freddie Stewart.
Hmm.
Freddie Stewart is very quietly back in form, doing some things. He's even stepping players on the weekend, which I thought was impossible. I don't think he could do it. Um, it looks like they're going to have Freeman back in the centers this weekend coming. I do think Freeman probably. I think he's better on the wing. I have no problem with him playing 13, but they've really got options there. But it looks like even though Lawrence is back, looks like he might miss out this weekend. Well, I'm almost sure he's not going to start. So yeah, and then I think England will just yeah, England really did well. Like they've got multiple options in midfield now.
Hmm.
And because of that, they've got options in the back three. Um, they're looking good. But Freddie Stewart's been the stand-up player for me. He's been really, really good. Like I thought that when he went off the boil after he entered into the sort of test arena, I thought maybe he'd kind of been found out and people realized that he wasn't that fast, etc., etc. But he's doing well in the air again. Him and George Ford. Ford was unbelievable. Like he just very quietly just was a game driver the whole day, just the whole day doing your thing, and everyone dominated. And Ollie Chessum was outstanding,
He was insane.
outstanding.
Yeah, he carried ridiculously. I mean, not that I wasn't aware that he could do that, but I felt like he went like a different level. Like I thought, he can, but he's kind of like Itoje where like he does his best work in sort of the dark. But he was just a monster. Like all of the carrying stats that he has were ridiculous. I mean, this was the perfect game for Ben. Oh, he was really good. Um, I think the other player I'll shout out that hasn't shouted out yet. I mean, it's funny. I don't think we're both going to shout them out. I'm just going to mention them very quickly. Is Harry Irondale. He scored a hat trick, but we're barely going to mention him because we're just like, whatever. But Fraser Dingwall, like, he's starting to win me over. I still think you could do better. I still am on the Max Ajomo train. I will not let you down there, Sean. But he's like, this was just a perfect like game for him in terms of he just is good at doing the simple stuff really well. He's not going to carry the ball for long. He'll get it out to Freeman or Roebuck or whoever. When he needs to, he can straighten the line. When he needs to make a big tackle, he does that. Like he was the first one on the ball when Ben Thomas threw that crazy pass to no one and was able to get that counter attack to Arundel. Like he just does those simple things really well. And if even if maybe he's not necessarily the first choice center that will cause a lot of issues for Dialendi and Mofana. But if he's your second choice center, I think you're very happy with that.
He's really good, and I'd probably be speaking more about him if it wasn't for my Max Ajomo agenda. Um, but Dingwall's like the perfect kind of player that I really like,
Mm,
especially when you've got Freeman at 13, because he just balances that whole thing out. Like, as Ford was just doing his thing, Dingwall was the glue guy. Like, he
mm,
was just very quietly going about his business, doing everything, not putting a foot wrong. Like, you can't have your whole back line just go absolutely mad. It's impossible. Like, balance doesn't allow for that.
mm,
Dingwall's 100% the guy that works through that process. And he's playing so well and putting so many good consistent performances, but growing on each performance that he's very quietly making that 12 jersey his own. Like
mm,
he really took that jersey as like, cool, I'm gonna just fill in here. But then now he's playing where everyone's like, why do we need to drop him? It's not a case of anything else, but tell me why we must drop him. Like, give me a reason why to drop the guy, and then we can discuss it. But you can't because he doesn't really do anything wrong. Um, so yeah, so I think there's a good battle there. But listen, favorites aside, I'm I'm all for teams having positive options.
mm,
Like when you have a guy that you need to justify starting because you not because of who he is, but because you can't justify dropping another player, then you're in a great place. When you start having conversations around what is our game plan, how are we going to unlock the opposition, cool, then let's look at this option as opposed to this option. Then you're in a different place altogether. And it's huge. And England are getting there, getting there. Am I
yeah.
still allowed to say that Borthwick got there by accident? I can't say that anymore. That's just being a doer.
I'm still so skeptical, but you know
Me
what? The
too.
results are speaking for themselves. So what can we say, Sean? I mean, he
Yeah,
seems,
he accidentally got there with his
yeah.
38 coaches and naming squads once a week.
It literally, all these players, or a lot of them, kind of fell into the position by mistake. Like Ford was literally the third choice fly half this time last year. Plays a bit, benefits from the Lions series, now his first choice. Like Pepper benefits from the Lions series, he's now up there. I think, there's like injury crises, and then they help like some like Hayes or Dingwall and those sort of players. Like, yeah, I don't get it. I think very quickly, last two things. Okay, we did. You mentioned Dingwall. I agree with you. I think if you're going to do 6-2, Dingwall playing center the last 20 minutes, I don't have too much of a problem with that. I would very, I would not play him at center in Paris in the last round. Like, that's just all I'll say there. But, or at least start him there. I think by then, hopefully Lawrence is fit. Then you go Dingwall Lawrence or Jomo Lawrence if we would be choosing. But yeah, I think Freeman in the last 20 minutes. Also, you want him chasing those kicks, and he's obviously fantastic at that. Like,
On the wing as well, though. Like that's where he does it. So I have a question, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yes.
But in this match day 23 that played on the weekend, who
Hmm.
covers 12 if Dingwall's injured?
No one. Henry Pollock, Ben Earl.
Ben Earl. Ben Earl probably does it, and then you go Freddie Stewart perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm only saying that because he's a big guy. But that is the one benefit of why I think Lawrence is going to play more moving forward. He'll play at 13 or Slade because Slade can cover 12, but they don't have any 12 options at the moment.
I guess if
Like,
you make your 10 replacement Finn instead of Marcus, you kind of can cover that. So I guess
yeah. So that's what's
play,
happening this weekend. It looks like Finn's going to replace Marcus Smith and the 23 jumper.
yeah, play 23, I think will be interesting because I think you go a few ways. Like either the Smiths or Slade or Daly. I mean, he's still around. Like, yeah, you can kind of fill some gaps there. Yeah, I think the question, I think it's dependent on who's playing, the other position. So who do you go at center, who do you go at wing? And then okay, which puzzle pieces do you move? And your Ben Earl, Henry Pollock, in case of emergency thing, is a bit lower down the list than it is like your second option. So yeah, I think that could be interesting. I have a
The
question for
thing,
you now. Oh, go
the
on.
thing
Sorry.
is Freeman, like everyone's saying, like Roebuck had a good game and
Mm.
Freeman played well at 13. Yes. If Freeman goes to the wing, are you losing anything? No. Arguably, you're gaining slightly better in the air, and I think you're getting a better finisher. But what you're also getting is you're getting an option of 13 cover, which so I think Roebuck falls away. And I think you have a Lawrence or perhaps in a Jomo at 13. He's played 13 before, but
Mm.
like you have Lawrence at 13 because Lawrence can cover 12. Finn Smith can maybe cover 12. I think they're getting a little bit thin there. So yeah, I just want to see Freeman on the wing just because, yeah,
He's
because of
big.
Bath.
But
Yes, my,
yeah,
my question. I'm ready. Hit me.
yeah. And also, just very quickly, it seems like Manny Boso is not going to play the rest of the Six Nations. It looks like he's out.
I'm so bummed, man.
He's
It was
just
such a
it's not
random one.
lucky.
We looked ready and set for a full season, Six Nations with him, and then he pulls out late, and now we find out it's freaking long term.
Yeah. My question for you, Sean, is George Ford the best flyer from the world?
Sure.
Because I think
That
so.
is such a good question.
I
I'm
think he
gonna
is.
I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna go further and say best test 10.
Yeah. I think
He's
yeah, go on.
he has he has one of the widest kicking ranges out. Okay. And he showed that on Saturday. Listen, he kicked for 1,001 meters. He kicked the ball a kilometer. One guy. I've I've never seen numbers like that. I don't really hunt those numbers, but I'm pretty sure I don't think I've seen anyone kick higher than 800 meters in a game.
I've never
No,
seen it.
higher than 800 meters combined, not 800 meters. That'd be quite a kick. Anyway, I think Ford has one of the best. Him and Crowley have the best kick from hand options out. And I think Prendergast perhaps comes in third-ish there. But anyway, his passing game, his game management, and his ability to kick, drop goal, whatever. Yeah, I think currently, I think you're in with a great. It's not even a hot take. It's just going to ruffle some feathers. But if you want to have like an honest conversation about it, he's in your top two right now.
Yeah.
Like you could perhaps argue somewhere, but I think he is so clearly ahead in so many aspects. Number one is not uncalled for.
Yeah, I think it's Finn or Sasha that are probably the contenders. I mean, Sasha's a bit up and down, especially with his goal kicking right now. But he's
Finn
literally,
Russell is way higher than people give him credit for.
yeah, he's been great. I mean, look, last week aside, like he's been really good, I think, for Bath for at least a year. And obviously he really ended the season quite well. It's just he happens I said on Blue Sky, he happens to be the Sergio Parise of Scotland right now. Like just playing with a few clowns. But yeah, I think George, at least right now, I mean, Saturday could be a good way for Finn to get back up there. Like, I think he has good of a case as anyone else.
He's good on defense.
He's decent there. I think the England attack, I don't think it's the prettiest attack in the world, but him coming in at 10 and what's the coach's name? Blackett, coming in as the attack coach has just worked so well for England. Like, yeah, we talk about the Borthwick live lotto draw with coaches and players, but he really hit the jackpot here. Like, he's like all the strike players that England has now, and they have a good set piece of just making them such a dangerous prospect. Like, their 22 conversion rates has gone
Yeah.
really good, I think, the last year or so.
Can I tell you something that is one of the sexiest things about Ford and the way he plays
Mm.
is that rugby league over under pass he delivers.
Mm.
Oh, it is it's so natural for him. And I actually asked a mate of mine who's from Bath. I'm like, listen, do the Fords have rugby league in their background, in their family? And he's like,
Mm.
yeah, they're from up north. That's
Yeah.
it's big there. But that over under pass, like he delivers it, it's just so natural. It's such a great pass selection at the time. Oh, love it.
Yeah. Sean, very quickly, just previewing the weekend's games and maybe what we expect, or maybe we can even make predictions if you're so bold. But with Ireland, Italy being the first game, like, are we ready to believe in it?
No, I'm going to be negative here, and I'm going to say I'm ready to believe in Italy that they're going to be competitive for like 60, 70 minutes and then potentially lose by like 18 points, which will kind of skew the results a little bit. I think they will be in the game longer, and I feel they're going to make Ireland work for it. So while Italy are not going to get the result, they
Hmm.
are going to inadvertently cause issues for Ireland by the performance they put in.
I think, yeah, that's probably accurate. Scotland versus England.
England by 18.
Yeah, it'll be really funny because England is starting to feel themselves if Scotland actually beats them. I think either way, this is going to be a pretty funny result. But yeah, it'll be more fun if England loses.
It's listen, all the neutrals, all they get, all this like that's the biggest neutral game to watch ever because no matter what the result, you've got someone to hate on. Like all the keyboard warriors, this is their game.
Yeah,
England lose, haha, we told you. Scotland lose, haha, we told you. You know,
it's a
so
win-win. And then, I mean, I said what I think Wales should do in order to at least, keep things respectable. What's the one thing Wales need to do this weekend against France?
they need to lobby to get the game pushed off to kick off at like 10 p.m. because Cardiff, a whole day of all the fans and everyone drinking, it'll just be absolute chaos. It'll take France an extra 2 hours to get to the stadium, disrupt them as much as possible. Perhaps they'll walk to the stadium and stop off at a few pubs. So I think they've got to push the kickoff back real, real late, and that's the only thing that's gonna help them. But
Open the roof as well. Just let the rain in.
yeah, I predict that France will name a kind of like a 1.5-ish strength side where there will be a number of first team names in the 23, but a couple of new guys that will still be competitive. Like I don't think it's going to be a July test one kind of a looking side,
Yeah.
but I think they will name a little bit of a mixed side with a strong bench, and they still win comfortably, but I don't think it's going to be like 80-0.
Yeah. So I've just seen that Mofana and Dupont, it seems like they haven't practiced this week. So it seems like they will be a doubt. So you might see Gaiton and Brabori. I'm actually quite keen to see him. Like I've seen him for Poe a bit, and he seems like a really talented young player. Um, I think Standerforth is going to get a game here. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes on, maybe takes Mofana's place. I mean,
Got a beautiful mullet. That's all I'm going to say.
and then, yeah, I think maybe one of Tatafu or Colom play at tight end. But I do see the vision there of like there being a few changes to that team. Sure, let's very quickly just go through some other rugby stuff. Congratulations to the Blitzboks for winning the Perth Sevens. Yeah, beating Fiji. I mean, Fiji has been quite good, I think, this season. Like they beat them last week, so they got some revenge there. New Zealand Sevens, the women's team was just really ridiculous. Like pretty much all the people heard from the World Cup are just going on a revenge tour. Um, Super Rugby starting this weekend with their new laws. I don't think I've heard from you, Sean, what you think of these new laws.
Um, yeah, listen, this allowing you to carry the ball back into your 50 to kick, I think is not a great law
Mm.
because I think Jared mentioned it on Twitter, but are you then allowed to carry it back into your 22 to kick out on the full? No. So there's
It's
a little bit of that.
confusing.
One thing that I will say, I actually give a shout out to my dad. I was chatting to my dad, I think it was in November, and he's like, like he's not a rugby guy like me. Like I don't like study the game. He just watches it like a fan. He's like, do you know what I want to see? I want to see when the ref says use it, that no one else is allowed to join the ruck. And I was like,
Hmm.
yo, remember I still posted it. I posted it on our group, and
Hmm.
you were like, well, how can we beat the system? Because I think that's the right way of looking at it. Like if someone names something as a law change, like how are we going to beat it as a team? Because that's how all coaches think. And then Super Rugby have brought that law in or a similar law or something. But
Hmm.
other than that, yeah, I love that rugby is innovative. I love that we, out of every 20 laws, we bring one into our actual laws. Don't agree with them all, but we are trying to change and move things along. Unfortunately, what that does do is kind of just puts an extra layer on. And, if you continuously build on into your house is going to look like a shit show eventually.
Yeah, you're
So
painting a house every
you
two
can't,
months, basically.
sometimes you have to break it down. Exactly. But yeah, I haven't had too much of a deeper look, but that was it really. Um, that carry back into the behind your line to kick a 50-22 has the potential to be good, but it also has the potential for teams to somehow manage to unlock some shenanigans.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So Super Rugby starting on Friday morning. So yeah, there's some Friday and Saturday morning rugby to look forward to there. And then yeah, also we mentioned the Rugby Europe Cup. We mentioned Germany's surprise win over Romania. Our pool mates in the 2027 World Cup. So yeah, that's obviously not really great for them. This weekend it's Germany facing Portugal, which could be very interesting if Germany can continue that form. Spain should be have quite an easy game against Switzerland. Netherlands, Georgia. I mean, Netherlands gave Spain a bit of a game, and then Romania, Belgium. Like Belgium were thrashed a bit. Didn't seem like they had all their first choice players. So yeah, that also could be quite an interesting game. So yeah, I mean, I think this is always something you can always keep an eye on because you can see obviously where like the sort of that tier two level, how those teams are going. Then I think the final thing, Sean, is there's a report in rugby in Planet Rugby from Colin Newbold just talking about like the Scott Robertson era and what happened and sort of sources leaking what's going on, which is always the funnest part of when someone gets fired. Long story short, it seemed like Razor was just not really good with man management. And a lot of the Crusaders boys were like, no, he was not the sort of the easygoing, fun person that he was at the Crusaders. It was like on edge and tense and just really difficult. And he wasn't great at communicating with the players if they'd been dropped or whatever. So apparently, like back in the Ian Foster days, he'd like call you in a meeting on Monday and be like, hey, you're not playing, and be like quite transparent with it. Razor apparently would tap you in the shoulder in the bus before practice and just be like, yeah, you're not playing this weekend. And then tell you to go to an assistant coach to find out why you're not playing. So Leon McDonald or James Ryan would be the ones now having to tell you, like, or Jason Ryan, sorry, will be the ones having to tell you what's going on. And then, yeah, apparently there's some stories about the blues players not, I mean, the blues players being sort of discriminated against, basically. And there's also some things about Ardy as well. Basically, it seems like Ardy said, well, these sources, I assume it's players, and I assume it's players close to Ardy, are like, no, no, Ardy was fine. He would go up to Razor, like after every practice, and be like, yo, you're doing so well, coach, which doesn't also sound great. When your coach, I mean, your captain is like, trying to encourage you like you're a 6-year old, like trying to like, wear your pants the right way the first time. So it's not a good picture for Razor, unfortunately.
The moment got too big.
Shame.
Um, what caused this? Like, the guy was a confident coach. Like, he was pretty on top of it. Like, seemed like it was a natural thing. Coaching's natural for him. But I mean, that's pretty wild stuff. But the most important thing, I think, if he wants to, there's still decades left in his coaching career.
Mm.
So maybe he goes somewhere, coaches in Japan for a little bit, or goes to the US and coaches, and or goes to France or whatever, somewhere where there's a good break and he can go for some surfing and just mind his own business and then fight your way back in. Or maybe he just Robbie Deans it and just basically goes and has a job for the rest of his life and have people asking him why doesn't he do more?
Mm. Yeah. No, it is, yeah, I think it does talk about just that there was just something off about the environment with the All Blacks. Maybe having all of those assistant coaches maybe was a bit of a downfall for him. But yeah, I guess now we're going to start hearing these stories and rumors and everything. But yeah, I guess it's kind of I think you said this from the start. It kind of felt like the Heineken Meyer thing of like it just came too late, and maybe the players he would have relied on are a bit too old or not on the top form. So you can't really rely on Scott Barrett to carry the environment because he's not the world-class player he was 2 years ago. And now it makes dynamics a bit difficult. But yeah, like it's very unfortunate. So yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be more things coming out. I think a lot of the players in the Super Rugby launch were saying, like, defending Ardie and saying, no, it wasn't just him, basically, which is a wild way also to defend things. Be like, no, we all hated him, basically, which is quite funny. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of leaks to come. Okay, so I think we can end it there. There's a lot of rugby to look forward to. There's Super Rugby now. I think Top 14 is having one of their weeks back. There's Rugby Europe, and there's obviously the Six Nations as well. So please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify and on YouTube, and follow us on our social media channels as well. And we'll definitely be back next week to break down all of the rugby action. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.